Hey, everybody. I hope you're doing well amidst all the COVID 19 coronavirus craziness. I have now been quarantining myself for like 2.5 years, so I'm getting a little stir crazy. And I thought I would use it as an opportunity to go ahead and prep some scripts for upcoming episodes of Blood Problems. But instead, I got horribly distracted and watched Boy Meets World for like 2.5 hours. And I stumbled on an episode uh, that fucking infuriated me. And I wanted to talk about it. I need to talk about it because I don't remember this episode as a kid. Because it's a pretty innocuous episode, I guess, to a child. But as an adult, I was very upset with it, and I want to share it with you. I will be playing clips and discussing it, and I need to expose the writer of this episode because it was terrible. The episode in question is season 5, episode 20, I believe. Yeah, season 5, episode 20, Starry Night. It comes just 3 episodes after my favorite episode of Boy Meets World. Um, and then there was Sean, which is ostensibly a horror movie parody. It was my favorite episode as a kid, so I went back and rewatched it and then kept watching the series. And 3 episodes later, was met with this monstrosity and terrible, terrible fucking episode. So the reason for the episode was Corey and Topanga were broken up at the time because Corey kissed a pretty lady on his ski trip or whatever. And Topanga could not process that. She thought, you kissed someone else. There's no way you can still love me. So they were broken up. And this episode was clearly written to help justify them getting back together, because of course they had to get back together. However, Topanga was so appalled at Corey's kissing this lady that she needed to be presented with a situation where she kissed someone else and still loved her significant other. The only problem is they went about it the worst way imaginable. So I'm going to start playing some clips from the episode and we will discuss them. But before I do, I guess just generally, this entire episode is predicated on the notion that Topanga feels like she can't get back with Corey because he does not incorrectly interpret the famous painting The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh the same way that she does, and this handsome guy with whom she is hanging out, and they're both just incorrect. She thinks she's so right about this interpretation that she can't imagine living her life with a man who does not see this painting in this same way. And it's absolutely maddening. The episode starts with Corey and Sean at the park as Corey relives his meeting of Topanga when he was 3 years old, 15 years before the events of this episode. And then it quick cuts to Topanga and Angela at the museum. It was a day that Corey and her were supposed to spend together before they broke up, and they're exploring the Vincent van Gogh exhibit. Now, the painting, the Starry Night painting, does travel occasionally. It's mostly a permanent fixture in the Museum of Modern Art, but in this episode, it's found itself in Philadelphia. However, I did some research and I could not find any evidence that it was in Philadelphia in the late 90s during the events of this episode. And so, what I can only assume is that this museum charged tickets to have people come look at some prints of Vincent van Gogh's work, because there's a shit ton of Van Gogh paintings in here, and there's no way the Philadelphia Museum of Art or whatever was able to get all of these paintings there. There's no chance. But whatever. We'll just let them look at some prints and we'll see where it takes us.
Ooh. If you want to talk about emotion, check out the motion coming this way. Oh, Lord, I forget my name. Hi, I'm Nancy or something.
Excuse me, is your name Topanga?
Angela, my name is Angela. But I already have a boyfriend, but... Oh, her.
Yes, my name is Topanga.
Angela spots a very handsome man in the museum walking around by himself in a blazer, points him out to Topanga, and then he approaches both of them out of nowhere. What could this be?
Well, I'm Ricky Ferris. I'm sure you don't remember me, but I certainly remember you.
Oh, you two know each other.
Sort of. You changed my life forever when we were about 6 years old.
I did?
She changed his life forever. when he was 6 years old. What could have possibly happened when they were 6 years old, you might be asking yourself? Well, the answer will shock you.
She did.
You ended my Little League career. Hit me with a fastball so hard right on my left cheek. I think I still have a mark there, but you don't want to see that.
She ended his Little League career by throwing a fastball so fast that he still has some sort of mark on his ass 16 years later? No, 12 years later? Whatever. How fast did this 6-year-old girl throw this ball? Or did it have nails in it or something? There is zero chance he still has a mark on his ass from presumably a softball that he got 12 years prior. Doesn't make any sense. And to be honest, because Topanga does not remember him, I think maybe he's just making this up and is hitting on her. And it's the worst pickup line I've ever heard in my life.
See, you were the one who helped me realize I was more of an artist than an athlete.
Oh, he owes you. Make him pay.
You know how when you're 6 and you're thinking about the trajectory of your entire life and you're in the co-ed Little League and you're thinking, I fancy myself an athlete. I think this is going to be what I do with the remainder of my life. But then you sustain a traumatic injury that redirects the entire course of your existence, and you start rethinking every impulse you've had in the 6 years you've been alive, and suddenly you think, no, I'm not an athlete. I'm going to be an artist. When I was 6, I was thinking mostly that I could take over for Jason Todd after he retires as Robin, or qualify for some sort of space travel. He's thinking about the fact that he's going to be an athlete and then retires that to be an artist, all before first grade. That's bullshit.
I'm sorry, and I promise never to hit you on the tush with a fastball ever again.
Well, why don't you make it up to me by seeing the Van Gogh exhibit together?
Oh, I think I should go check out that painting over there entitled Go With Him, He's Cute.
Why don't you make it up to me by seeing the Van Gogh exhibit together? What? First of all, we're already in the exhibit. Let's just look at it, you know? We don't have to walk around together. That's fucking pointless. Also, how is that adequate compensation? She doesn't even remember doing this to you, and now you're making her walk around the fucking Van Gogh exhibit with you? You don't know each other. What is going on?
The most important painting and the greatest legacy of paintings ever to enrich the world.
Irises?
Well, no, actually, this is my second favorite. I was talking about Starry Night. Do you know it?
Oh, I saw it in a book once, but I don't think the book did it justice.
No, it didn't. See, what you need is somebody who's passionate about it to make you passionate about it, too.
You know anyone like that?
Yeah, I do.
I can make you passionate about this Van Gogh print that we were charged to see. Just follow me, and I will espouse some bullshit to you that will make you fall in love with me.
I think that this is the most spiritual piece ever painted.
No. It's not.
Look at the way he painted the stars.
See how they protect the small town? It's like these swirling divine lights from God that say, I will always protect you.
No, it's not. It's really, really not. Also, I like how they talk about the stars exclusively and ignore the huge cypress tree that dominates the entire painting, which kind of negates their entire interpretation.
Well, it says here that Van Gogh found religion around the time he painted this.
Incorrect, Topanga. That is incorrect. He did not find religion around the time that he painted this. He, if anything, had a more nuanced relationship with religion at the time of this painting. He was raised religious, but as he got older, developed a more complex perception of God and man and nature, and involved nature in his interpretation of religion or God or whatever you want to say. Now, granted, the only research I've done about Van Gogh has been in the last hour and a half after I saw this episode, so I could adequately refute the points made by these two, and also the episode of Doctor Who that made me cry. But this is she's just wrong, and she's just going along with this handsome fella because he's handsome.
I'm sorry. I guess I could talk about this painting all day.
You did. The museum will be closing shortly.
Oh my gosh, we talked all day.
Apparently they fell through a wormhole, and that 30-second conversation took hours, I suppose, because if that seemed like the rudimentary beginning parts of their discussion, but apparently they spoke all day about this painting.
So, Dinner? We can keep talking about Starry Night or the real stars if you want.
Ricky, look, I've had a really great time talking to you. I can't believe we talked all day, but I don't know, my head's in a funny place right now.
Topanga, do you plan on eating dinner tomorrow night?
Yes.
So do I. So how's this? Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, we'll meet at Thibaut de Châteaulou's.
That little French cafe?
There's suddenly a French cafe in the town that no one's ever mentioned.
Right. Now here's the thing. We're going to be sitting at the same table, and I'm going to be sitting across from you. Now, if you want it to be a date, you look up from your dinner. If you don't want it to be a date, don't look up. But if you do look up, I'll be looking back at you.
An awe from the audience. What a weird thing to say. Let's have dinner, and if you want it to be a date, look at me. But if you don't want it to be a date, you better stare at your food the entire time we're eating and never make eye contact with me. What? How is that a friendly hangout? That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Should I go out with him or not?
Well, he's gorgeous, cultured, sensitive artist type, wants to take you to a romantic French restaurant. Should you go out with him? Let me think. Yes!
I don't know.
You don't know what? He is everything you could want.
He's not Corey.
No, he's not Corey.
So if I go out with him, then Corey and I are really, really finished, aren't we?
I don't see where it would help the relationship, no.
I don't know what to do. I mean, Ricky and I talked all day. He knew so much about the paintings. That's what makes me want to get to know him better.
So Angela is encouraging Topanga to take a chance with this guy and to go out with him. Topanga cites the fact that he knew so much about these Van Gogh paintings, and that's why she wants to get to know him. However, he didn't.
He's so complex and interesting.
He's so complex and interesting.
How can I go out with another guy until I know what Corey feels about this painting?
Topanga, this guy swept you off your feet. You gotta give him a chance. Maybe one day you won't be telling people that you met the guy you love on the monkey bars, but you met him in front of a masterpiece, and he told you how he felt about it, and he swept you off your feet.
I'm not leaving my feet for anybody until I give Corey a chance.
Giving Corey a chance is a wonderful sentiment, and I think she perhaps should. It's a good revelation. However, she's setting him up for failure. She knows he's an idiot, and also her interpretation of the painting is incorrect. So she has decided to give Corey a chance to come into this museum, and if he answers incorrectly, about this painting, then she will continue their relationship because he is clearly complex and as ignorant about art as she is.
What do you see?
Topanga, why'd you bring me here?
I want to know what you feel about this painting.
Well, I don't get what that has to do with anything.
It doesn't have anything to do with anything, Corey. Your instincts are correct.
Oh, so this is some kind of test.
Right, big test. Test the biggest.
Well, forget it, Topanga. I'm not taking a test. Listen, you don't reduce our relationship to what you think about me because of what I see in a painting. That's not important. What matters is what I see in you and what you see in me.
A rare moment of mature lucidity out of Corey. Topanga is supposed to be the smart, mature one in their relationship that helps guide them into their future together. And Corey's kind of like the fuck off who is failing out of high school and just barely getting by. But for some reason, he steps up in this moment and correctly explains to Topanga that his interpretation of Starry Night has absolutely nothing to do with the validity of their relationship or their compatibility. How do you think that goes?
How were you able to spend the whole night talking to some girl, then kiss her the next day and still think you care about me?
Because I did, and I do.
You don't! Or you wouldn't be able to do those things, Corey. Those things don't just happen for no reason.
Listen, don't tell me how I feel about you, okay? I know how I feel about you. And she kissed me.
Oh, and you moved away? What did you do to stop her?
Nothing.
I love that they're screaming at each other and the museum patrons behind them just have to ignore it and pretend like it's not happening so they can peacefully look at these Van Gogh paintings. I feel like people look at me side-eyed when I'm just speaking a little loudly in a museum. and they're literally screaming at each other, and no one is doing anything. In Philadelphia. That's perhaps the most unrealistic part of this episode.
And you were right. Those kind of things do not happen for no reason. They happen to teach you something. And I know now that I will never, ever love anybody more than I love you.
What do you see in the painting, Corey?
He gives her a very beautiful speech about the meaninglessness of his kiss with this lady and how he still loves her and that's the only thing that matters to him in the world. And she stops she stops his statement dead and kills the conversation and again redirects her focus to Starry Night and asks, Corey, you need to pass this test. What do you see when you look at this painting?
See, God, unhappy with how some particular humans treat other particular humans who love them, has decided it's the end of the world. And I think he's right.
God is protecting the people in this little town. They live their lives and they come out of their houses and they see the sky. And they know God's protection and love. And that everything will be all right.
Van Gogh killed himself a year after this painting was finished.
So anyway, I bought this beret and I grew some hair on my chin here. And then I told my parents I wanted to put off college and go to Paris and paint for a year.
How crazy did they go?
Nah, I thought it'd be a good idea and expand my individuality. I was just testing them. Now I really have to go.
I thought I had the only parents like that in the world.
So Topanga and Ricky, I forget his name, go to dinner where he continues to woo her with his wit and artistic ability, drawing with crayons on the table, which makes me think this isn't a fancy French cafe and is more like a fucking French IHOP or something.
But I've never been to Paris.
Well, maybe now you'll have an excuse.
I hardly know you.
We've known each other for a whole day and dinner, and we're almost done with dessert.
Not a reason to go see someone in Paris at all? In any world?
Oh, wow. They're beautiful.
Oh, it's no Van Gogh, but you said you liked irises, so...
You know, I've had a really rough day, and you're making it less rough.
I've been thinking about you ever since the museum. It's amazing when it can be a day like any other day and without even expecting it. You meet somebody interesting and inspiring and talk for hours.
What did you say?
Those things don't just happen for no reason.
You're right. They happen to teach you something.
Yeah.
You're gonna kiss me now, aren't you?
So her and Ricky kiss. It's very romantic, but ultimately she did not feel anything for him, and thus is able to understand Corey and his complicated relationship with the woman from the ski trip. And so it all works out wonderfully. She tells Corey that she kissed this man, and then Corey tells her that he needs her in his life because he went back to the museum and stared at Starry Night for 30 minutes and finally was able to see what she saw. But he needs her in his life because he doesn't immediately see things incorrectly and needs her to help him see things incorrectly. And then they kiss and get back together, and that is how they justify these two getting back together after Corey's infidelity. It's so bad. It's so bad, man. Their interpretation of that painting is just incorrect. Again, the subjectivity of art is important here. And so I don't think I need to list all of the ways in which they were most likely wrong with their interpretation. But here's all the ways they were wrong. Again, Van Gogh was in turmoil when he painted this thing. He was in an asylum. He checked himself in there. He killed himself a year later, and I think they really missed the nuance of this interpretation. Again, I don't think that's a huge deal because art is subjective, and you don't necessarily need to know what the artist was intending when you're trying to appreciate a piece like that. However, she was so staunch in her position, a position that was spoon-fed to her by a pretentious asshole that she apparently hit on the ass with a softball when she was 6 years old. and was so adamant in that belief that she determined the only way she could get back with her boyfriend of 15 years was if he saw this painting in the exact same way that Ricky did. I think if this is representative of their lives together, they're in for a rough go of it. I haven't seen Girl Meets World, but if their entire relationship is based on Topanga incorrectly interpreting the world around them and Corey blindly following her, then they're doomed. They are absolutely doomed. Also, what happened to Topanga? Man, she was such like a weird little hippie girl when the show started. I loved that Topanga, and now she is forcing quasi-religious sentiment into famous paintings by people who had a nuanced relationship with spirituality and religion. And what? Corey, I'm so sorry this happened to you, man. It's a nightmare. And I haven't seen Girl Meets World, but I hope that you haven't blindly followed Topanga into homelessness and false interpretations of the world and art, and she hasn't forced her quasi-spiritualism into any other things that you have no interest in, or even things that you care about, for fuck's sake. And viewer, if you are rewatching Boy Meets World and you get to the perfect episode in season 5, that horror episode, I recommend you skip this one because it would make you want to rip your hair out. That's all. I'm done with this. I'm done with this episode. I had to rant, but we're done.